after 15 years of being in the Daily Trust, I had the privilege of working with you in the editorial board when you were I think you were then the deputy chairman of the editorial board before you became the chairman.
Yes.
So, 15 years after you resigned from Daily Trust as chairman of editorial board, you also resigned as a columnist. I think that was 2021, if I'm not mistaken. And then
Yes.
you set up the 21st Century Chronicle. How
Yes.
has it been? How has it been? Just let's start from that premise. You know,
Well,
I, you're
you
always
see,
very historical. So let me take you back to history too.
well, you see really what happened after I left Daily Trust and at the end
Mhm.
of 2019, some friends approached me that we should
Mm.
set up another newspaper. And
Paper,
I
yeah.
said, no, I wouldn't be able to handle a newspaper now for many reasons, advanced age,
Mm.
kinds of health problems, and also the
Mm.
newspaper industry, that is the print newspaper industry,
It-
generally is having a hard time because of the
Yes,
exactly.
economics.
So
Mm.
the economic situation and also the internet and everything. So instead,
Mm.
I said, let us try an online newspaper. It will be
Okay.
cheaper to
Mm.
establish, cheaper to manage, maybe
Mm.
less influential than a print newspaper, but at least that's the one that I think I can handle right now. So
Okay.
we got some financing and we started. We have been at it for nearly 6 years now. So
Okay.
it's okay.
Okay.
I'm doing fine. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So,
Yeah.
how moving from being in charge of your own affairs, being your own slave, so to say, and
Mm.
all the other ones you've been working most of your life. When I tell people that I normally use you as one of the examples of people who didn't read social sciences. And
Yeah.
then, you get crashed into another discipline and then try to dominate people there who you are. So how has it been, being, because, you have been running Adonis and Abe for 23 years and I know it hasn't been easy. How has it been with you?
No, it's
Just trying
okay.
to.
Prof.
Mm.
There is as the Holy Book said, there is a time for everything.
Everything.
So early in your life, it's okay to
Mm.
work for various organizations. I did
Yeah.
some public sector work and some private sector work. I was teaching in the university for 7 years, which was
Okay.
a government university. And then I
Mm.
went into journalism, and I went sometimes into government-owned newspapers like New
Mhm.
Nigerian, and
Yeah,
sometimes
Nina, yeah.
private-owned newspapers like Daily Trust.
Mm.
So it's okay. And then we arrived at a situation in life where we set up this online newspaper. Even this
Uh,
one, I don't own it completely. It's with other
yeah.
colleagues.
Okay.
So it's okay. As things change,
Yeah.
you also change.
Yeah,
No
change
problem
it.
at all.
Oh,
Mm,
okay. Okay. One other thing that I thought I was going to ask you, because
mm.
is this idea of we want to talk generally about the state of the nation and the politics, the position, the 2027, and I'll try
Yeah.
that just we everything within the 14 minute time frame. There's one
Yeah.
thing that just caught my thought, and it has happened before. Recently, two prominent INEC chairmen were
Yeah.
given political appointment. One was Professor Jega, highly respected, and your elder brother, who was appointed special advisor and coordinator of the presidential livestock reform. And then there is
Yes.
also Professor Mahmoud, who succeeded your brother and who conducted, I wouldn't say controversial because almost all elections are controversial. So
Mm.
he was also made I don't know whether they got this title from the former king Shagari, who conferred it on K. Umbadiwe. Ambassador Extraordinary Plenipotentiary to Qatar, to the state of Qatar. I hope you remember the time of K. Umbadiwe when Shagari
Yeah.
made him ambassador. He was, because he was a man of grandiloquence.
Timber and the caliber.
He carried it around that he was ambassador plenipotentiary extraordinary. That was the first time I
Yeah.
heard the word. So, what do you think of the whole notion? Do you think some people are saying, if you make former electoral, okay, maybe your own brother, Professor Jega, because there has been a time lag and he did not really conduct the election for the current president, that can be understood that if he wants to, he can. But somebody who conducted an election in which you won and you offer the person a political appointment, do you think is it like ethically justifiable, or does it help to cast doubt on some people who felt that the outcome did not reflect the will of the people, or that Professor Mahmoud, who was criticized left, right, and center, do you think that appointment play into the hands of his critics and even the government itself in terms of the legitimacy of the government?
Honestly, what I can see is that, okay, these guys became INEC chairman more or less mid-career. So after that, they probably have to do something. Now, both of the guys you mentioned, they are university professors. In case of Professor Jega, he went back to BUK, still a professor at Bayero University. But I happen to know that his appointment to chair the livestock sector reform committee was because when Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje was governor of Kano State, he set up a committee to recommend reforms to the livestock sector. And that time, Professor Jega was in BUK, he was made the chairman of that committee. And they worked for 2 years during Ganduje's tenure and produced a voluminous action report. So what happened was that when President Tinubu wanted to do the same thing, Ganduje, who was then the APC national chairman, told him that, look, this is the man who did it for me in Kano, so you can also probably draft him to do it for you at the national level. That's the little that I know about this particular assignment. Now, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, who I knew very well, I even taught him at the university.
Oh, wow.
Yes, although I was just like 2 years ahead of him, but he was my student. So he was a professor at the Nigeria Defense Academy.
Okay.
NDA in Kaduna. So after but he held many other positions. You know, he was executive secretary of TED Fund. And also, I think when President Jonathan convened that national political summit, he was the executive secretary. So he did many things, but his substantive position was a professor at NDA. So when they made him INEC chairman, when he finished, I don't know what happened, but he was made an ambassador, which, if you ask me, it's okay, because an ambassador, it's outside. Whether they showed gratitude for the way he handled the election, I don't know, but I think an ambassadorial appointment is not central to government. It's outside the country and everything. So that's the little that I can say about this. Hello?
Either your expertise or so here, political appointments are often seen as sinecures, our reward for support.
Yeah.
Certainly. So if somebody like Professor Mahmoud, given the criticisms, he declared that election the outcome around 4 a.m., for example. I'm not sure if there's anything in the law that says you shouldn't declare it at any point in time, but it was one of the issues. And for me, I was looking at it, people that were criticizing him, saying that he was compromised. Of course, we have no evidence. And then they offer you a political reward. People wouldn't, if I were in that position, I would think it's handing an ammunition to my critics to say, yes, this is a reward for me for doing a yeoman's job. And even if I were in the government, if you offer that position, people will think, yes. Some people were saying we always accuse one another of rigging, that there was a lot of rigging and all that. I don't know. I'm also looking at it from a very ethical lens. Is it really proper? Or so that future Amopitan now will be hoping that, look, if I do the thing well, when my tenure is over, there will also be a reward.
Well, I agree with you that it's not probably the best thing to do because it lends itself to criticism. But the Nigeria governments have done even worse than that, sometimes very openly. For example, President Buhari appointed a former Justice of the Supreme Court as ambassador to the United States when the man was even in his 80s. And he said publicly that when he filed his election case in 2007, this was the only judge in the Supreme Court who delivered the minority judgment in his favor. Now, that was terrible. To say because a judge delivered a judgment, for that matter, a minority one in your favor, okay, now you are president, you will reward him with a post like to the US when the man was 80 something and he could hardly walk. It was not neat at all. And that one the president admitted openly. It's a reward for. Now that's worse than this one. It was because this one, okay, it's an accusation that there are problems with the 2023 election, but the courts dismissed up to the Supreme Court. All the case was made about the beavers and about the IREV and many other things, but they didn't succeed in up to the Supreme Court, if you ask me. So, but of course, this is when you are involved with politicians, you will never escape. You will never escape blame and accusations. So
because
it's okay. It doesn't look very neat.
I'm also, for example, when talking
ahead,
about this ambassadorial appointment, one of the things we learn is that a diplomat is somebody who can tell you go to hell, and you'll be looking forward to when the journey will start. In other words, there are people who have diplomatic skills. And then you come to look at some of the appointments. You come to look at some of the appointments.
Sorry, the line is poor, but I heard what you said about some of the appointments. It is true. You see, in the olden days of military rule, non-career ambassadors were few and far between. Most of the countries' ambassadors were career people, well-trained in diplomacy and everything. But with the coming of the civilians, they have so many IOUs and so much so that now I think the non-career ambassadors probably outnumber the career ambassadors. And some of those who are appointed recently are quite controversial. Are quite controversial in their conduct here at home.
They're not really right. People, rain no mockery, and then look at the kind of people you appoint. I mean, even if you want to, if you want to go to there are people, whatever you may saw for Basanjo and Babangida, there are people that when you look at the appointment, the kind of intelligentsia, the people they surround themselves with, I mean, you can criticize Babangida for many things. You just look at the kind of circle, criticize Obasanjo. But what are we seeing? I mean, it makes you feel like extremely uncomfortable. I mean, I don't mind if you appoint non-career ambassador, but let it be people at least that will command respect. We know the the times of other professors we've had, non-professors, people who you are proud to say that they are representing you in the country. But there are people that now they appoint, you won't even want to, openly tell people that this is this is that you are the ambassador of your
No,
country to that country.
I agree with you. And when the list was made public, there was a lot of criticism. You take a man who has many issues of bank default, debt, and everything, and make him ambassador to the UN and some of the other ambassadors. It was quite messy, and some of the nominees are quite controversial figures within the country. Like you said,
Yeah.
Reno and also Fani Kayode, very controversial within the Nigerian political space. So, but then ideally, because ambassadors are screened and approved by the Senate, and if the Senate were up and doing, it could stop the president from appointing some people. It could say, look,
Yeah.
This man may not be the best person to represent the country abroad,
Yeah.
and we are not approving. But the kind of Senate that we have today, everything that comes is speedily approved,
Approve.
even major things. You can imagine major issue like state police constitutional amendment and everything. It was sent and the Senate passed it that very day without public hearing. A
Yeah.
serious issue like that we should ask. There are people in this country who are knowledgeable in the security matter and who could make a lot of input. And you didn't call anybody, you just passed it that very day. So if that's the
Yeah.
kind of Senate you have,
We
then
have national anthem, change of national anthem was
yes,
was done.
the same day.
So I mean,
Terrible.
it's really unfortunate. But let me talk a little bit about the politics and the road. One of the things that seems to bother me and many Nigerians is, yes, many people are saying they are very frustrated with the Tinubu government, the increase in incidents of poverty, insecurity. But then you look at the opposition, you know, the people say that since Buhari, this politics, messianic politics, they believe that one man has a magic wand to fix the problems in the country. So after Buhari came, you see that spirit that there's a kind of messianic complex, and the way people believe he did not really perform very well. So people became very skeptical about, you are in opposition, is very good. Even the current president, remember they were the people calling themselves the progressives when they were in opposition. So, and the subtext against at that time that, look, if you give these people the chance, they will fix this country. Now we see that it's easier to say than to be done. There is what they call the state of ennui. People are like confused. People are critical of the Tinubu government. They say it has not delivered. And they're also critical of the opposition. People remind us of what we call messianic politics. People believe that there's one person that once you give the person power, everything will be transformed. But we see that from the time of Buhari, Mr. Integrity and everything, after Buhari failed to deliver, you can say the messianic politics came into disrepute. At the same
Yes.
time, so people will now say, okay, Tinubu is not doing well. The opposition, even if this man is sounding like he can, well, how are we
Yeah.
sure that if he goes into there, it doesn't become even worse than the person? So in the end, people seem confused. They believe democracy has not even delivered what they expected. They are not happy with the government. They are not happy with the opposition. They don't know which direction to turn. So what will be your own, recipe? What will be your own suggestions on how we can turn our own this democracy around and build confidence and faith among Nigerians?
Well, that one, it is left for you professors of political science to find a way. But the problem is that liberal democracy all over the world has certain severe shortcomings. For example, you can only choose your leaders among the available options, those who are on the ballot.
On the ballot.
And a lot of the time, you may look at all the people who are in the ballot, on the ballot, and decide that none of them, or you may see somebody in the country that you think is an ideal leader, but if he is not in politics, or even if he is in politics, but he couldn't secure a party ticket to be on the ballot, then there's nothing you can do. You cannot choose him. And also, you know, some of the people we regard as among the best, they stay out of politics because the kind of politics we do here, decent people, most cases will say, look, there's no need to go into it.
It's not worth it.
Also, yeah, there is also the problem we have between the expectations of party chieftains and those of the general public. For example, you know, to get nominated by a party to contest, it is done by party chieftains and delegates. And their own criteria for choosing who to field is different from the one that we as ordinary voters are expecting. Which is why in many cases, the person you regard as a good and decent person may not be able to scale through party processes and appear on the ballot even for you to vote for him. So it's a fundamental crisis that we have in the whole democratic arrangement. And that is why I said it is for you professors to really find a way. Right now, as you said, a lot of prospective voters may not like the incumbent administration, but then the opposition itself is scattered, and it is almost impossible to defeat a ruling party without all the major opposition parties coming together, because the main issue in 2015 that the opposition was able to defeat the federal government. The central issue was that 4 major opposition parties came together. Of course, there are other factors, like maybe the election was relatively well conducted and things like that. But the most important thing was that ACN, ANPP, CPC, and a big bloc of ABGA all came together and formed APC. And without that, they would never have defeated, because even after all 4 of them came together, okay, I forgot another important factor. A faction of PDP broke out, what they call the NPDP. About 4 PDP governors, Amechi, Konkoson, and others also broke out and joined the APC coalition. So it enabled them to not only defeat, because it was not only defeat President Jonathan and the PDP that time, but the current situation where you have some opposition people saying they are PDP, others are ADC, others are NDC, and the others in other small parties. No. You can't, even though, of course, the suspicion is that some powerful elements within APC are orchestrating the situation. All this going to court and creating factions within parties, it may be orchestrated, but the opposition top figures themselves cannot be absolved of the problem, because too many of them want to contest for presidency, and if they do it like that, honestly, they are almost guaranteed to lose. I'm sorry to say. It's unfortunate.
But even if they win, my only thing is that, given the level of nonchalance in Nui, you know, if you come with all this messianic complex you are going to fix, people will just think, after all, we saw it in Buhari, what happened? So even people are
Yeah.
thinking, even Tinubu himself, we remember they were called the progressives when they were in opposition. They talk about progressive politics. That once the subtext that once you give these people power, they will, I remember it was Fashola who said anybody who knows what is he wants to do in 6 months is enough to solve the problem of power. I mean, we saw what is happening. So people don't, I see these people delinking, people seem to have lost interest, so sometimes when they take this money or bag of rice you give them, it's not because they don't believe it will make any difference. They have seen radicals before. We have seen people like Shomola or them, they go into the system and get de-radicalized. So what do they do? So in the end, what do we offer the people? What is it that we can advise the people? I've seen your advice to the political parties, and I think I share it with you, the opposition. For as long as they remain, it is going to be difficult enough to defeat somebody who is when you get even fragmented, it becomes almost impossible.
Yeah. It's almost
If you if we
impossible. Once you
if
come
we want
together,
to
it's
face the
a
truth,
billion task. Yeah.
unless
Well, but the problem, as you said, is that the liberal democracy as a whole is being discredited in
yeah,
our environment. And you can't separate that from the socio-economic conditions.
yeah,
Because from the beginning, this liberal democratic arrangement is designed to function in
mm,
an economically well-off, developed, educationally well-developed society,
yeah,
where you have a huge percentage of your population is illiterate. They cannot
mm,
read manifestos. They don't know the issues. They don't give a damn about the issues. I
mm.
know because a friend told me he went home and he asked his brothers who they will vote for. They said so person. He said, but the other person is better. They said no. That one he is always frowning. When you go to his house, he doesn't give you face. But this one, when you go to his house, he is smiling. He receives you very well. And when you are going, he gives you some money. So he is the one we are going to vote for. So
Yes. Oh.
if you have this kind of electorate, Prof, which democracy are you talking about? Eh? You vote for people on the basis of he receives you well in his house, smiling.
And they
Eh?
smiles.
Honestly, that's the kind of
Uh,
electorate you have. Which democracy? Guy. Hmm?
let's because of I know they will take more better. Let me just end with this thing. Some people see that, as you mentioned now, democracy has created more, liberal democracy seems to have created more challenges than it solves in terms of widening the gap, the disunity among Nigerians. The argument is that, elections everywhere tend to be like war without bullets. So every 4 years, you come and open the wounds about ethnicity, about religion, because there are group dynamics. You mobilize all the things. Now,
That can
the
help you.
wounds have not healed properly. Within the first 2 years you've come to power, you are opening up the campaign again, opening up the wounds. So people are believing that in terms of nation building, that this we have to think of a way around it, not military autocracy, not anything. Maybe you have an idea, somebody from the science who get crashed into journalism, get crashed into political science and everything. Maybe an outsider perspective on how we can, what do we really do? What kind of an arrangement will suit our specific conditions so that we don't have every time to be opening the wounds that's widening the social distance among us rather than things that will bring us more together. So what will be
Honestly,
your
I
own
don't have
perspective?
any.
And then maybe you can join your answer with this one. You know about Prophet Elijah Yodele, who will always, tell you what God told him, even about when to go to bed with your wife. Can you, if you have a crystal ball like him, God talks to him, he says, can you look at your own crystal ball if you have one? and then try to look at the shape of what will happen in 2027. So you bring the two, and we'll probably round up with it.
One can only say, based on the trend that we see, and if things continue this way, with some powerful people, probably in APC, trying to disorganize all the opposition parties by sponsoring factions, getting all kinds of hopeless Jankara court orders in PDP, in ADC, in NDC, orders today. You know, honestly, we are headed for incredible elections. That is the best way to put it. We are heading for incredible, because it looks like some people want the president to contest alone in 2027 without any opposition. What kind of democracy is that? Want to contest alone? You want to disorganize all the opposition, even a tiny political party like PRP. Once they produced a presidential candidate, then some people are sponsored, they rush to court and say they were the executive and that the convention was illegal and this and that. So the dynamic is to stop every opposition candidate from contesting next year's election. Now, if that happens, I mean, I'm sorry, that is the end. It is the end of democracy.
Well, but they will argue that the PDP or a faction of PDP, one PDP, is now allowed to, and then there is the Labour Party, which is not seriously threatening anybody, is also allowed to. So they will argue that that it's been a contest.
Those ones will contest. Exactly. In fact, the Wike PDP even produced a presidential candidate that I have never heard his name before. After reporting Nigerian politics for 30 years, to say I have never heard your name as presidential candidate of PDP of all parties.
What of the Labour Party? What of the Labour Party? Have you heard about the name of the Labour Party?
Honestly, I have not heard the name of their president. The Labour Party is virtually dead.
I think that must be
I saw court order saying that.
That must be they are allowed, that they are giving some breathing space now. Because it can be a threat. But as you rightly said, the onus is on the major opposition candidates to know that they have existential problems. It is going to be difficult enough if they are come together. And not to come together, it's always almost to say, look, unless there is divine intervention, the game is over.
Honestly, well, the problem the opposition candidate have, the opposition parties have, is that some of their key leaders don't want to give up the 2027 opportunity. That's the way I see it. A man like Atiku Abubakar, for example, feels that he's nearly 80, or it's like this is his last chance, so he doesn't want to surrender it. And also a man like Peter Obi also, but even though one can say, yeah, but Peter Obi has more time on his side than Atiku Abubakar because he's still under 70, but still he also seems to think that this is the best
because the power will go to the north by the arrangement and stay 8 years there. So
that is why.
The time he comes 8 years, how old will he be?
One time. That is true, because if he allows, let's say, 2 times of Tinubu, then they will say it is the turn of the north. That kind of thing. So these are the two seemingly irreconcilable problems that the major opposition candidates have. But they should overcome it if they are to have any chance at all in the election.
Any chance at all, yeah. Anyway, thank you very much, Mahmoud. I'm very sorry for the interruptions with the networks, and we have taken longer time than we promised that we would. And I'm very happy and grateful that you generously allowed us to extend to do the Nigerian thing of being Oliver Twist. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So thank you
Thank
very
you.
much,
Eh?
Professor. Thank you very
Thank
Hello,
you.
good
much.
evening. Good
Thanks.
evening, sir. Please,
Have a
is there
good time.
opportunity for audience to say something?
Oh, okay, sorry. You can ask question. Oh, sorry. Do you have to? Sorry, we thought a podcast. Can you? Anybody wants to ask a question? I know
Okay.
there are more people on
Have a
Facebook.
good
I understand that there are almost
Yes,
50 of you on Facebook
we
watching.
have joined. I am Tajuddin Ahmad Tijani. I want to commend
Okay.
you.
You
It's you people. You are the people that we have been seeing and we have been learning from since from when we have been very kid, and now we are growing. We are watching you people. We are very much proud of you and the country, and
thank
we
you.
hope to see more of this podcast. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that is the many people are on Facebook. I think it's I was told there are almost 40, 50 people on Facebook watching.
Yeah, yes, we are
Mm.
following with keen
Okay,
interest.
okay. Let me ask. I don't know the people on Facebook if there's any way I can connect them to ask. But if they can, or send a question is okay. Otherwise, if there's anybody who wants to make comments, I'm sure Mahmoud will be. We can persuade Mahmoud to take it.
All right, thank you, Sas. I am adding
Okay.
follower of all your posts on both Facebook and print media, even before the advance of the social media.